Welcome to MANN-O-LOGUES. I'm Dr. Sundra Mann, the creator and host. MANN-O-LOGUES is where life and leadership converge. Enjoy the journey and thank you for listening to MANN-O-LOGUES. Welcome to MANN-O-LOGUES. My name is Dr. Sundra Mann. I am the creator and the host of MANN-O-LOGUES. This is a podcast conversation about life and leadership, how life influences leadership and how leadership influences life. I am excited on this episode that I am meeting with a leader, James LeBlanc. James LeBlanc is a director of community impact in the field of workforce development. He has a wonderful story that he'll share about how life has influenced his leadership. And I'm hoping that you will be inspired, that you will be informed, and you will be compelled to go out and do something similar. Welcome, James LeBlanc.
Thank you, Dr. Mann. I'm honored to be here with you tonight. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you have spent the last 13 years or so leading programs, initiatives, and people around workforce development. You've served on the board of directors for an addiction and treatment center. In addition, you are an ordained minister, an author, motivational speaker, and a licensed realtor. You're doing a lot. Exciting. Describe for us what workforce development is, why it exists, and who is your overarching mission, really looking to inspire and support.
Yeah, it's a great question. So workforce development is an industry, and it's basically a set of strategies and programs that build and sustain a skilled workforce to meet the needs of businesses and the economy in general. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach. One, we're preparing individuals with the necessary skills through training and education and career planning, and also addressing the skills demands of the employers in our region through helping them with recruitment and job placement and connecting job seekers to those opportunities.
As a director of community impact, you are essential to ensuring your organization's services reach those who need them most, particularly justice-impacted individuals, youth, and displaced workers. What leadership skills or traits are the primary drivers of your accomplishment of this mission?
So that's a really good question. I consider myself, I guess, a servant leader, but I don't want that to sound like I'm, like walking around on my knees or something. I mean, it's not that because I'm a servant leader, but with a I kind of need you to go with me as I lead you. I can't drag you along, right? And but I want to serve. And I guess what I mean by that is I never ask anybody to do anything I haven't done. And I never ask anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. And I think that's super important. I've had a lot of jobs, Dr. Mann. If we get into my story, a lot of jobs, blue collar, white collar, and um, and the leaders that I always appreciated the most were the ones who would jump down literally in the ditch with us with a shovel and dig a couple of shovelfuls. They didn't have to dig the whole ditch with us, but get down in here and get a little dirty and that would just mean so much. And I've literally done that. I've dug trenches and laid conduit for a living, and that will show you who the leadership is super specific in that industry. So yeah, that's what informs just from being someone who's had to work his way up from the trenches, literally. I didn't mean to do that. From the trenches to where I am now as a director and leading a team. So I think that experience informs who I am as a leader today.
That is awesome. So you're demonstrating that you're willing to do what it takes. You're role modeling that for your team. As a leader, we have to show that not only are we willing to do that, are we willing to do something, but we're not going to do something that we wouldn't ask others to do, right?
That's
So,
right.
with that, as a leader, someone who's leading across an organization, who's leading a team, what do you expect from your team, and what can they expect from you?
I expect your best, and your best isn't going to be the same every day. That's what I think we as leaders need to understand. Your best, somebody's best might be that they showed up today. That might be their best. Now, that can't be their best every day, but their best today might be that they're here, that they're present, and they're willing to work because of whatever's going on. And I know my best isn't the same every day, so I need to extend that grace. And as leaders, I think that's where the rubber hits the road. Is how do you pull the best out of people? And how do you get someone to their best? Because I mean, as a leader, our best is a stretch goal for real because we I probably haven't even seen my best yet because I keep getting stretched to another place where I didn't even think was possible. So how do I get my team to get to that stretch point and go beyond their level of comfort to a new place of performance? And that's different for every individual that you lead. I mean, in my experience, it has not been a cookie cutter model. It's been relational. You have to build the relationship. You have to, learn your folks, let them learn you, and then figure out what motivates each person. I'll give you one example of a person. I led this person for 2 years before I got their best. And it was 2 years of patience building for me because it was just a lot of mediocrity, a lot of excuses, a lot of stuff that I really don't have time for, and that the James, not the leader, but just James, wanted to tell him to hit the road, and we bring the next person in. But I stuck with them, and what I finally figured out, Dr. Mann, it took me 2 years, which is probably not a great, um, you know, like commercial for my leadership, but it took me 2 years to figure this out. When I started just giving them responsibilities without like I usually have to, folks usually have to kind of earn that, like show me that you can handle the little bit before I give you a lot. And I just say, you know what? They haven't shown me they can handle the little bit, but let me just drop a lot on them and see what happens. And they blossomed. I couldn't believe it. They just exploded into uh, the colleague they are today. And I it was a desperation move, honestly. It wasn't a strategy that I planned, but it was kind of a last ditch. I said, let me give you who I need you to be. And if you don't step up, we'll have a different conversation. And they stepped up. And I was like, wow, I should have just did this from the beginning, but I was trying to give them a little bit and see if they can handle and what they need. They had so much capacity that the little bit I was giving them wasn't challenging them. And they were like, oh, well, I'll just do that whenever. But when I gave them enough to stretch them, that's when they showed up and really showed out. So that was a learning experience for me as a leader.
That's good. That's a great
Uh,
lesson because it's not always about the things that go well. It's sometimes about the things that don't go well that we learn the most, right? And so, what
right.
I hear in that is I hear some nimbleness on your part to be flexible with that person. I also hear a transformation that took place that wasn't just for that employee, but also for you and your leadership growth and development. And I
Right.
also heard there that responsibility and accountability can also propel leadership, right? And
Mhm.
so awesome, awesome. That is great. So you sort of alluded to this, so I'm going to ask you. You've been very transparent about your past. So from abuse, addiction, jail, homelessness, and sometimes hopelessness, you share some of that in your book titled The Miracle. How have your personal struggles shaped your leadership philosophy?
That's a great question. Uh, uh, So I do kind of have to go back to the beginning, but I'll be quick on this. So yes, my book is called The Miracle. It's my memoir. I was born an orphan. I never knew my mother or father, uh, but I was adopted immediately. I was raised in a great neighborhood in Berkeley, California. Um, but inside the house, after my parents got divorced, my mom abused us pretty seriously. My brother ran away a lot. Child Protective Services came and removed him from the home when he was 12 and I was 10. He never came back. He went to foster care. So at 10 years old, I learned my lesson. It doesn't pay to love, it doesn't pay to connect, it doesn't pay to be vulnerable because they're either going to leave or they're going to hurt you. And I went through life like that, full of resentments. And I was a pretty good candidate for falling into a lifestyle of addiction, of you know, negative behavior, and that's exactly what I did. Went to rehab for the first time at 18, turned 19 in rehab, turned 21 in jail, was homeless, left California thinking that would help. But when I got to DC, guess who arrived with me? Me. So I had not addressed the core causes and conditions that led to the negative behavior. So I say that to say I never thought I'd be a leader. Some people are just born leaders, people just follow them, and that wasn't me. I was a loner, and that's another thing with leadership. You have to be a good follower to be a good leader. And so I just really realized I needed something had to change because not my life was on the line. And so I went and got some help, and I'm going on 14 years clean and sober, in the grace of God again. And but that wasn't the final thing because I was still very angry. I still was not a good employee. I still, um, you know, did what I wanted to do. And so I realized I needed more help. And I went and got some counseling and I learned that I had a lot of resentments. And that's when I go around the country and deliver my keynotes. I call it the freedom formula, and it's all about releasing resentments um, and how that can transform leaders, teams, and outcomes. Because a lot of us are walking around with resentments, and it's showing up in the workplace, it's showing up in our families, it's showing up in traffic, it's showing up. And the two main ones I had to deal with were my birth mother, who I was very angry at for giving me away, and myself, who I needed to do some forgiveness on both parts. So I wrote letters. I wrote a letter to my inner child, and I apologized and promised little Jimmy that I'd never treat him like that again. And I've been able to keep that promise. And my birth mother, I wrote her a letter and I forgave her, but I not only forgave her, Dr. Mann, I apologized to her. But I was taught that it was more of a spiritual exercise. And when I let her off the hook and apologized, and the apology was for holding the resentment against her all my life. A 400-pound boulder that I didn't even know I was carrying around all my life just rolled off my back, and I was finally free at 43 years old. And then 5 years later, we found my birth mother. In fact, Dr. Mann, I just got off the phone with her. It's a bit of a because we usually talk on Sundays, but we connected today, and today's Monday. Um, and in 2017, we found my birth mother. We found my entire biological family, which included my father's side. And my whole father's side are Washingtonians. I have cousins, brothers, a sister, all kinds of nephews, and I have this huge family now. And so I just thank God for it. But I don't think it would have happened if I had not done that work of forgiveness. And now I have a great relationship. I lucked out also in that my mom's really cool people. Everybody on both sides just welcomed me because that could go either way also, but that's gone very well. My dad passed away before I found out, but I've learned a lot about him, and I'm super proud to be his son. But why do I mention all this? Because this is all part of my journey, and this all informs my leadership. In that, you know, I see me in a lot of people that I work with, and I can see it, and so I think it affords me to give them a little grace and patience. Um, but it's also a double-edged sword in a way because I know what I had to do to get out of that and to become the leader I am today. And it was a lot of work. And just knowing, where I had to come from and the help that I got and the patience people had with me. So you also can't enable people to continue to do negative behavior. So uh, accountability is huge, and I guess we did talk about some of that earlier.
Just tell me about a moment when someone saw the potential in you that you didn't quite see in yourself yet.
I'll tell you, Dr. Mann, I was living in a shelter. It was a work bed shelter. I was working at Starbucks. I was going to Bible college. I was getting my life together, especially for us returning citizens or for those who maybe don't have the dazzling resume. Go volunteer in that industry that you want to get your foot in because it says so much about your character. And I was volunteering for an organization that helped returning citizens. And I was helping, I was the guy who like set up the chairs for the meetings and went and got the coffee and the gopher, go for this, go for that. And I loved it. I loved it because we were helping people and I was helping folks find jobs and I was doing it for free. And I was working at Starbucks and Popeyes. I had to just Starbucks and Popeyes to pay my bills. And another volunteer noticed, his name was John Zatoli. He won't mind. He's retired old labor guy from DC, and he was just another volunteer. I barely even noticed him, but he was connected in DC in a good way, connected in a good way. And he was like, James, you're working like you're getting paid, man. And I was like, yeah, I love this, man. I love it. And he was like, we gotta get you a real job, man. I was like, yeah, okay, John. He was like, give me your resume. And my resume was not impressive, Dr. Mann, at all. But I gave it to him, and he knew he knew the executive director at a nonprofit in DC. That's when he asked me for the resume, and I was like, oh man, no one's gonna hire me. I had so much self-doubt, so much, because of my past, my background, and just no self-esteem. And my wife, we were dating back then, she, she's the one. She said, just send your resume. You never know. I would not have sent it if she hadn't. And I was like, all right. And I sent it in, got the interview. And for years, I told people I knocked that interview out the park. I killed it. But what I know now is it wasn't so much my sparkling interview skills. It was basically a formality. John had already, you know, worked his magic and said, this guy's working, he's volunteering. If he does half what he's doing volunteering for you, you'll have a good staff member. And I got hired. And that started my journey in workforce development. So John Zatoli, um, he gave me he noticed, and that's why I tell people, when I used to teach job readiness or when I was more on the ground with folks, um, I told me you're always on a job interview wherever you go. If you're on the bus, you're on a job interview because you never know when that door is going to open and who knows who. And that's how it happened. There's been a lot of other people who have helped me along the way. So
Oh my goodness. So John sounds like an amazing man. John, wherever you
uh,
are, thank you. Thank you for helping James turn it around. Wonderful. So, are there any trends in workforce development that are causing you? So, from where when you started, many years ago to where you are now, that are causing you to shift the way that you lead because the industry is changing.
that's a great question because I've had so many roles in workforce development that now my role is community impact. So I'm the director of community impact at WorkSource Montgomery, which is Montgomery County's workforce development entity. And in my role as community impact guy, I basically go around and educate folks about our services, or do presentations, or just go to networking events, and it's a really good fit for me. So I love this role, but I've had many, many roles, and so I'm still involved with the sort of operational aspect of the organization, if not directly so much. I'm still in all those meetings, and of course, AI, right? So AI is here. It's not going anywhere, and we need to. AI needs to be our friend and not our enemy, and AI really can be our friend. It's still to be determined, like what jobs are going to be affected negatively by AI. Um, but I encourage everybody to start using it. Start using it. Go to YouTube University and learn as much as you can about AI and how you can implement it in your role, whatever that role is, whatever industry you're in, because it touches every single industry. And so, that's obviously new. And again, we need to make AI our friend. And and I mentioned Montgomery County because Montgomery County is sort of unique in that it has a biotech industry here in Montgomery County, and that's unique in this region. So WorkSource Montgomery has a biotech boot camp, which is an opportunity for folks to career switch or break into the biotech industry, and that's been super successful. We have a 5G boot camp for folks who want to get into that industry, and then of course all the other sort of uh, usual suspects: hospitality, healthcare, IT, construction, transportation. Those are pretty much across the board in any area you go to. Those are going to be the high growth, high demand industries. But I just, yeah, in Montgomery County, biotech and 5G, as well as just everywhere, everybody needs to know as much as you can about AI and how you can use it um, to supplement and complement what you're already doing to make you better and save you a lot of time with a lot of tasks. AI is my assistant now, so I put in a lot of proposals that I wouldn't have had time to do without it. So I love it myself. But
Absolutely. I've
mm.
embraced it too. I've even named mine. So yes, I have. I have. So
Do we dare ask what the name is? Can't.
so my AI assistant is Claudine. So Claudine is
Ooh, that's a serious name. Okay,
it's
Claudine. Yes,
Claudine. Yes, that is my AI
I
assistant.
need to name mine. That's a good
Yeah, I encourage you to do so.
one.
So keeping with our podcast theme, life and leadership and how
Mm,
leadership influences life.
mhm,
Can you talk
mm,
about how those two overlap of how life influenced how you lead in that way, or
mm.
how your leading reaches back to life?
Never really had much of a problem finding a job, but keeping a job and retention. And that's sort of what the when you ask about how it informs my leadership and how I interact with clients and participants now, it really is about that retention piece because we can find someone a job, but are you gonna, what are the causes and conditions that have you in this position now? Was it just where you were a federal employee and got laid off, or is this an ongoing issue with you that, like it was for me, that you're losing jobs, you're getting fired, or you're quitting, or you're like, what's going on? And so that's the integral work that is necessary when you're on the ground working with participants. And that's why I used to love teaching job readiness classes because I would share my story. And so I say, like, man, I don't have it all together. I've counted. I've had over 50 jobs. I've had a lot of jobs in all different industries and lost jobs for multiple reasons. And thank God, since the last 14 years, I've either been recruited to another job or I just, was, promoted or, I haven't been losing jobs for quite some time. But in my earlier days, I know, right? It was an issue. And so I think that is the key. And that's one of the things I love about the way the the WIOA, it's WIOA, it's the federal legislation that funds and informs workforce development all over the country. One of the things I do love about it is funding is geared towards retention and follow up and making sure folks, we're measured. We're the feds measure us by, you know, does James still have his job a year after you closed him out? Or did you just get him a job and say, hey, good luck? No, we have a follow-up team that helps follows up and makes sure that we can help or sees if we can help folks navigate through those things that can be challenges. Because I mean, just getting a job isn't necessarily the answer to everything, and it could actually raise more issues once folks find out you're working or once it's up to us as workforce development organizations to help folks with the holistic piece, and not just, getting a job. So,
So accountability for retention, accountability for not only the client, but also for the organization and
mhm.
connected to funding and just further support and growing, and making sure that there are agencies such as yours available, right, for folks to have that support, to find employment, to maintain employment, and to be skilled for employment. So, amazing, amazing work that you're doing. So I want to shift a little bit to talking about equity, right? So leading the field of workforce development requires a bit of equity-driven leadership and an understanding of systemic barriers. So tell us how your lens of equity has developed over time and how you might use equity-driven leadership to build bridges between institutions and communities.
Mm. Yeah, I love the visual of equity, right? Where there's a fence and three people are trying to look at the ball game, and they're like, hey, I mean, the fence is the same height for everybody, but am I shorter? One guy could just look over the fence, but one guy needs a stepping stool and one guy needs two to look over. Now we're equitable. Now we're all on the same level. So, um, there's an exercise I love to do with staff to inform to get our sort of paradigm together around equity and those systemic barriers that you mentioned. It's that exercise. I'm sure you're familiar with it, where for everything I mention that is true for you, take one step forward. And did your home have books in it when you're growing up? Take a step forward. Did you have both parents in the house growing up? Take a step forward. Did that kind of thing? And it's very telling, like who's at the front by the time this is over and who's way back, like, and so when you're starting from the front, or as I heard it say, starting on third base, right? Compared to someone who hasn't even gotten up to the plate yet. So what's that? What does equity look like? Are we just going to say, hey, it's a level playing field, we all have the same opportunity, go? That's not fair. That's not fair. Um, so we have to take that into account, and that's why workforce development organizations have specific funding for different populations, like you mentioned, returning citizens or those underrepresented communities that normally have to scratch and crawl just to get an opportunity. So that's why the training. I love the training dollars that come down through the legislation, because now James can go get his CDL license and WorkSource Montgomery will pay for it. James can go stack some IT credentials and WorkSource Montgomery will pay for it. A lot of people don't have these resources in order to get the training that's needed. And with, you kind of alluded to the changes, the modernizing of industry with AI, with technology, with folks got to get trained. You can't necessarily just come up off the street and go do even, be a mechanic or, no, those are all computers now under that hood. So it's super important to realize that, and realize that you can't assume that folks have the same opportunity that maybe you did, or, maybe some of the, your family did, or things like that. So For me, I'm informed by a very dichotomous experience because I grew up, like I said, in a very nice neighborhood. We were the poor, crazy, abusive family in the neighborhood, but I was surrounded by success and I was modeled for me. I saw we were the only single parent house in the neighborhood. Everyone else had, two parents. They were going to work. And so I saw that, even though I didn't necessarily experience it in my house, but I saw it, and so that was modeled for me growing up. But I also have seen and lived in places where that's not the way it is, and when you come from environments that there's just a lot of negativity around, that's a whole level, that's a whole nother layer of challenge and barrier that you got to fight through just to get to the opportunity. And, whatever we can do to assist with that is what we're called to do in the workforce development industry. So,
Wonderful. So, workforce development is one of the possible solutions that helps to support the negative impact of the social drivers of health, right? So whether it's poverty, food insecurity, systemic racism, et cetera, workforce development is one of those leading solutions that can help with economic growth and development and empowerment of a community. So you work with communities a lot. You work with people directly in the communities. You work with partner institutions in the community. How has your understanding of community as a whole, and I know that's a broad term, and you can respond however, how has your understanding of community influenced your approach to leadership?
yeah, I just, when you mentioned that, for some reason, I flashed back to when I worked in DC, and one of the things that we did as an organization was home visits. We did, we went to our clients' homes and sat with them and knew their families. And some of those home visits, Dr. Mann, I'll tell you, will break your heart. When you walk into someone's home and see how they're living, and then there's all kinds of other things going on in the house, and it's really heartbreaking. It really is. And when you realize that this is folks' reality, right? And we catch folks, they come to our office and maybe they have a little attitude or, you know, um, but when you think about what their morning might have looked like just for them to get here, the three buses they took, so we just need to have grace with each other in community. That's what community means for me, right? It's like we're all here together. Like you could go macro with it, like this whole world is a community, and we just need to all know that everyone's going through something, and so we need to. I don't know why I keep saying this word. This must be my word of the day, grace. But I just think that's we just need to have more grace with each other and with ourselves. But with community, where it's all interwoven, it's all connected. And so when you help James get a job, that's not just a number, yeah, you checked off of your numbers to report out at the end of the month. Now his family has more resources. And so now maybe his kids aren't going to school hungry. And now maybe, you know what I mean? Like and now that family is going to be a more positive influence on their neighborhood community, which ripples out and just keeps rippling out. It's like the visual of the guy who is having a bad morning, but he takes the time to hold the door open for the person behind him, and the person behind him is having a bad morning, but because that person held the door open for them, they kind of shift their attitude.
You talked about grace, and thank you for the reminder of grace, right? So grace
Yeah.
is important to leadership. Grace
Hmm.
extended to others, grace
Hmm.
extended to yourself, right? So with that, extending grace for yourself, how do you engage in self-care? How do you take care
Uh,
of yourself?
so as far as self-care is concerned, it's super important. I do a lot of maintenance for James around, first of all, my sobriety, super important. I go to meetings. I work with others, and um, and then when it comes to my job, I shut it down. If you email me after 5 o'clock, you might not get an answer. Um, and I see your email, and work is part of life. But that part of life needs to stop and for your own mental and physical well-being. And so I shut things down, at 5 o'clock or whatever, I shut it down. And as in my role now, I do work weekends and evenings because community impact stuff is going on at all hours. So I make sure that I flex, some time, take an afternoon here, a morning there, and make sure that I'm taken care of because you're not going to be any good for anybody else if your own health is jacked up. And also, I guess one other thing is plan things. Like studies have shown that when you have even just the plan of a vacation, like knowing that that's on the horizon, it really does wonders for your positive outlook on life. Just knowing that Jamaica is 3 weeks away or whatever, whatever the case may be. So it's good to plan fun things and then actually do them, of course. But yeah, just that helps too.
That is such great advice.
Yeah.
The weight and cost of leadership can
Mhm.
can be severe, right? Not
Mhm.
only on your personal life, your family time, but also your health as you shared. So thank you for being transparent and
Mhm.
sharing that, this grand thing that looks all shiny and new had a cost that you just were not willing to continue to take. So thank you for that. I heard boundaries, right? So I heard preparation and
Mhm.
boundaries are two things that can really are important to self-care. So thank you for that. All right, I'm going to ask you one more thing if you
Mhm.
could stick it out with me.
Mhm.
So from just take a moment to reflect on where you started to where you are now in terms of how you define success. So, as a leader, I'm sure how you were defining success when you first started looks differently from where you are now, or maybe not. I don't know. So, if you just reflect over the last, say 10 years, how has your outlook of what success in your leadership life looks like? How has that changed or remained the same?
You ask the best questions. Yeah, it is. Well, it's evolved, I think, because I guess that's changed. Yeah. But it's not changed like it's not like a sea change. It hasn't gone from here to here. It's like evolved to a different place over time. Because as you were talking, I was thinking 14 years ago when I was, you know, uh, 14 years ago, I was getting ready to start this, January of 2012 is what I'm trying to get to. January of 2012 was when I started. So 14 years ago, I was still going through the interview process right now, in this month, to get into workforce development. And at that time, I was living in a room, and, with roommates, and success looked like, a wife, a family, home ownership, um, able to pay my bills with maybe some left over and food in the refrigerator. And that to me would have been all I need, all I could ask for. And today I have all those things and more. And so um so James 14 years ago would look at James today and be like, bro, you made it. Like, you made it. But do I feel like that now? Not really, because there's always the next thing. And that's a danger. I'll be honest. Like that's what I've done a lot of praying. Just God, slow me down. Just help me be. There's a scripture that says, peace be still, peace be still and know that I'm God. And just James, peace be still. I saw a thing where your life today is someone else's wildest dream, right? And I know my life today, I'm looking around in my office. I have an office in my home that's nice, right? And it leads out to my patio, and I have a TV out there outside. I got a TV outside, Dr. Mann. Like, look at this. So, which are not, it's too cold now, but it's nice when the weather's nice. But so these things, these luxuries, um, James 14 years ago were like, whew, boy, you doing it. But James today is like, well, yeah, but I'm putting proposals in for speaking contracts, and I'm making sure my kids are okay, and trying to support my wife, and I want to retire her within the next 5 years. And so it's just, it just evolves, right? And so, but it's important for 2025 James to look back at 2012 James and say, you've done all right, man. You've done good. And that's okay. It's okay to give yourself kudos and then keep going. Not from a place of like arrogance or anything or complacency, but just from a place of, you're fighting the good fight, and you're doing, um, you know, you are completing your assignment. It's not complete, but you're moving in the right direction. So, um, and also health. Health is a big part of success for me today. I didn't think much about health, back then. If I got sick, I got sick, whatever. But now it's like I know if you don't have your health, I've seen a lot of friends, a lot of family have passed away at this point. I'm at that age. My parents have passed away. Um, I have my new mom, my birth mother, who's still here, which it's just been an awesome bonus blessing. But I'm in my mid 50s, and a lot of my friends are going through that with the parents, but also our peers are checking out too. And I thank God every day, and this is sounds cliche, but it's true, for health, because health is wealth. And without it, all the money in the world, all the, whatever trappings that we're striving for mean nothing. So health, and I work out every day, Dr. Mann. I work out 5 days a week, and I do I eat between 10 and 6, like the whole thing, and cut way down on my sugar, and because I try to get the right sleep because that's important. All these things I never thought of, but now at 56, I'm very aware of all the little nuances that keep us healthy.
I love it. I love it. My takeaway is being present, right? So being
Yes,
present, understanding that all those things are not as important, right? As your health, as your family, and as the impact you make on the world, right? So we all get one life, one chance, one opportunity, and what are we going to do with it, right? I tell you,
absolutely.
this conversation with James LeBlanc today has been insightful, inspiring, and impactful. I thank you so much for your time that you have given to this conversation. I am excited about all the great things that I'm sure are going to be continuing to happen for you. I'm excited that you have a story that inspires others. And I'm excited that you are continuing to just embrace this pathway of leadership that, like you said, is really just one long continuum of life. So thank you so much for your time. I will ask you to continue to be you, to be blessed, and continue to just pour into others and allow them to pour into you. All right. Thank you
Thank you, Dr. Mann.
so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, James. So if someone wants to reach out to WorkSource Montgomery and they need some information about workforce development, how can they get in contact?
The best way is just go to the website at www.worksourcemontgomery.com, not workforce, worksourcemontgomery.com, and there'll be a link there to ask whatever question, and it'll be sent to the correct individual.
All right. So where can they find your book, The Miracle? Where can that be found?
Everywhere, like literally everywhere. It's available on Amazon, of course, but anywhere, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you get your books, it's available in paperback, Kindle, and audio if you like audiobooks. And
Absolutely.
I'm reading it on the audio.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And one last thing. So if someone wants to invite you to their space, to their place, so that you can share your story, that you can speak to a group, anything, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'd be honored to. My website is jmlspeaks.com, and my email is james@jmlspeaks.com.
Amazing. Amazing. I wish you well. Take care. And thank you for engaging in the MANN-O-LOGUES podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Mann. Thank you.
Whether you're stepping into leadership for the first time or reimagining what it means after decades in the field, I hope you've been inspired by our conversation today. Thank you for listening to MANN-O-LOGUES.